It's great to be back to Revived and Restored, Building Community. And I'm here with Kim Daniel and Valencia Benavides and myself. We're kind of discussing through the Waking Up Gray series of, a creative awakening and through the arts and stuff. And then just having that time with Jesus to come know more about his heart and his plans for us. And we're in the part of self-care, which I think it's a difficult thing, I think, in the Christian world a lot. I've what I've experienced for myself anyway over the years, and people that I've ministered, especially missionaries and all that, they don't take the self-care. A lot of them do not. And that time, it becomes dutiful instead of being in his presence, right? And you do things, but it's like if you're doing it out of that dutiful point, out of duty instead of his delight
Love.
over you and his love, then that's when burnout happens, right?
Yeah.
And so I thought we'd talk a little bit about that, of how, what's it like to be in that place of experiencing him every day where you're sitting at his feet, but how do you not keep it about duty and just doing it about delight? Like, what is that process like, right? So I thought maybe we could talk a little bit about what's the difference.
I have a story. Out of high school, I got a job in a company called FedMart that eventually turned into Costco. But FedMart, it was just a little store, but it had all the different areas of like food, and they called it soft lines, which was clothes. And that's where I was. And I would be the only person on the floor in that area. And I would get so frustrated because people would come in and look at things and leave it a mess.
Oh, yeah.
It was like, yuck, why do I have to do this? And I remember the negative of just so upset that people would, disrupt all the things I had just done. And the Lord showed me that if I folded those clothes for him, it would totally change. And it did. It was like, oh, here's another one to do. And my heart changed. So he was there with me in that process, and it was no longer duty. It was joy.
Oh, that's so good.
Yeah.
That's a great picture of, it's kind of like the way of cleaning house or
anything. You
cooking.
Just do it to the Lord.
Yeah. And if we shift our perspective, if we shift our, what our focus and our motivation. Yeah. Lord, I'm going to do this. I know it needs to get done, but I'm going to look for you to help me through it. I know too that when I put him first, and even if I take the time to pray and talk with him about it and have a heart of gratefulness, gratitude to me is what, I'm going to be thankful for this. I'm going to be thankful for that. I'm going to be thankful. If I start feeling the negativity, I start listing out the things that I'm grateful for, or I start worshiping, and that shifts. And then you start doing things and it's delightful. It's not a drudgery anymore. It's like, but I have to say that being in the stores, like some of the stores I go to, and they're trash. Like I went to Target. I haven't been in there in a long, long time. I've never seen it trash. It is so trashed.
Because they don't have their people working and giving it to the Lord.
Yeah. I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Like, what is that? No, I just want people to stop doing that. Like, when I see that. But I know that's like I'm just saying that's one of my pet peeves. But it's like, okay, Lord. So that maybe I needed to hear that, right? That's what I'm talking about.
Okay.
So what am I not so grateful? Like, what are we not so grateful for? And then how can he shift that, right? Which I'm thinking that's what you just shared was powerful. And yeah.
And I think I've shared too, just that like kind of a perfectionist kind of thing, but I think also just the season of life of like small kids and stuff like that. And she talks a little bit about that in this chapter. How, I think probably as human beings, self-care is not great, but I feel it's not a completely non-male experience to not have self-care, but because I think it shows up differently for men. I think relationally they don't always care for themselves. They might do other things that maybe women, I think just because we've got lots of plates spinning all the time, we don't, you know what I mean? Like sometimes literally. But you just have a lot of people to care for. And I think it's just really easy to not, because your
Mhm.
to-do list tend to be these things that are just never ending. You
Mhm.
know, they're like a continuum.
Yeah.
And so she talks about it says being dutiful squanders any capacity to pay attention. And I do
That's
feel
so good.
like
Yeah.
that
I love that.
happens. And we like have a profound problem paying attention in our culture, right? Like I
Mhm.
look around continuously and people are just like maybe even sitting in a room together, but on their phones. And kids are like very much like being kind of
Now iPads
taught
and
to be
games.
that way. I'm being dutiful and busy with this, and so I need to keep them busy doing something
Yeah.
That
else.
doesn't
And
cause more problems.
Yeah.
there's not connection in the
Mhm.
way that there could be, or even if it's just that they could go outside and do something.
Mhm.
We are struggling this in my family, and I know that so many families are, but it's just that need for attention, to pay attention to everything that's going on around you. And it is a lot, because we have so much information going
Mhm.
in. And I think that's probably at a level that no other
Mm-mm.
time in society has had, right?
Which she talks about where that can be, it's being distracted too.
Yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely.
Because if you're not attentive, you're being distracted and you're not
Mhm.
seeing the full, right?
And she
Mhm.
says, like, I experience this every day as I care for my children. The view of their beautiful faces disappears behind the laundry pile. Their laughter is
Mhm.
drowned out by the sound of running water and clanking dishes.
Yeah.
That is it. I
Yeah.
feel like so many people are living in that place.
Yeah.
I know that I have lived in that place a whole lot, and I'm struggling to learn
So
how
what does it mean,
get
like, to
outside
be
of that.
attentive then? So let's,
Mhm.
I think some people might say, what does it mean to be attentive? How, like, you just don't stop what you're doing because it's got to get
Right. It
done,
still
right?
has to happen. How do you do both?
So that's,
Or in the right proportion, right?
Mhm.
With balance somehow. Um, I think for me, this is something I am in the trenches, and
Mhm.
I'm learning this right now.
Yeah.
And realizing that there's a real imbalance in my life, and that it does not put me in a place of being available
Mhm.
or accepting the invitation when
Mhm.
Jesus asked you to his table. 'Cause she talks about that in
Yeah.
here. It's like, be attentive when he's asking you. And I feel like so many times I'm so thankful now, because reading this book, I'm aware, at least when I'm disobediently walking away from his invitation, because I do that sometimes. And
Mhm.
I hate saying out loud that, yeah, I consciously realize at times in the middle of my daily goings on that I feel like he's sitting there waiting,
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
and I'm not
I agree.
paying
Yes.
attention. I'm not stopping long enough. Or if I do,
Mhm.
how difficult it is to stay present for more than a few minutes.
Mhm.
I mean, it's like, wow, why is this so hard? Because it shouldn't be, because it is an invitation, and if we view it that way, he is inviting you into something that will totally
Wonderful.
transform
Mhm.
everything you're struggling against.
Yeah.
And I think, yeah, like this book is teaching you more and more about how to do that.
Yeah.
And I mean,
Yes.
I always love to hear what you guys have to say too about that, having, kind of gone through those seasons and made it to the other side. And what is it
And we're
look?
still alive.
Yeah, you're smiling. You have smiles on your face.
I love
You
it.
live abundant,
Yeah.
wonderful lives. So,
For me, I felt
how
like
do you
I
get
had to
there?
hang on to Jesus because the nurturing and all that too was very difficult because of what I came out of, right?
Mhm.
And so I didn't, there was the season when they were younger that I did escape because I didn't know healthy boundaries, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And as the Lord was teaching me through all that, I mean, I was still cry out to him. I mean, I listened to a lot of worship music and like, which would help me through it. If I have worship music going and it makes it clean in the house, I
Yeah.
loved it.
Mm.
I would worship as I cleaned.
Changes the atmosphere.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
I think there is something to that. I
Mhm.
feel like God's like brought that to my attention recently, like
Mhm.
because your experience that you shared before about just Zoe, you and
Yes.
Zoe
Oh my
both
gosh.
had like this totally transformational
It was.
moment because you just let the worship of God
Mhm.
enter your space.
Yep.
And we take that for granted because it's like, oh, that's too simple. But it
Mhm.
really,
It
I
is.
think it really is that
Mhm.
sometimes. It really is just like opening up. That is an
Mhm.
invitation too. You're
Mhm.
inviting him in.
You know, and I think that's the amazing thing about Jesus is his ways are simple.
Mhm.
Yes.
They really are. And it's letting go of all the drama and the chaos and
Mhm.
what we are, and the duty, like just doing, and if we
Mhm.
just let him,
His peace.
his rest, his peace
Yeah.
comes in, and then you're doing things out of a delightful place instead
Yeah.
of have to.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's like, I get to.
Absolutely. Yeah, I
Yeah.
get to versus I
Mhm.
have to.
Mhm.
And we talk about that in our family a lot too, just changing your perspective on
Mhm.
that. And
Mhm.
that is like something because I feel like someone said that to me and I
Yeah.
say it to my kids now because it helps you
Yeah.
become aware that there are things that you're choosing that you feel like are drudgery.
Yep.
And you don't necessarily have to go about it that way.
Mhm.
Or like, sometimes even just like I know I need to be in the word because that's transformative too.
Mhm.
And I have like my little Bible plan and I do, whatever in a year and I love it. It's wonderful. It's life-giving. But sometimes I get behind because I've like not done it when I was supposed to. And then I'm like, oh, I'm 10 days behind
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
the app tells you. And I'm like,
Mhm.
I need to catch up. And then I'm like, but then it starts feeling like drudgery.
Yeah.
And I'm like, all I want to do is just turn on worship music. And it's like, it's okay. Like you could just turn on worship music because
Mhm.
today your heart needs that.
Yep.
And you need to just get his presence around you and in you because clearly your fruit is not fabulous whenever you're not doing that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm
So
living
good.
proof. Ask my family. So.
I think for all of us, that's true. That's true. What for Kim, what helps you? Like we talked a little bit about what helps you where you feel the closest to the Lord.
Mhm.
Like even
Oh. Worship is a big one.
Mhm.
I think early on, I tried to figure out ways where I could be with Jesus all day long.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And it's real easy to get back there. When you've spent time with the Lord and there's been that deep connection, whenever it happens, I've always known that it's easy to get back there again. The deeper you get with him, the easier it is to get deeper with him.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like those friends that you pick right back up where you started
absolutely.
from.
Yeah.
It's like that. Yeah.
So, and now I forgot the question. The brain is tired today.
What helps you get back
Yeah.
to that place?
And what helps me, it's just saying no to something else.
Mhm.
And that's a big piece, I think, that we as nurturing
Mhm.
moms and just women tend to say yes too easy.
Mhm.
And there's times when it's not only important, it's vital to say no. The Lord doesn't want us to be everything to
Mhm.
everybody.
That's right.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah, that people pleasing likes to sneak up
mhm.
on us, and instead of taking care of our needs are important just as
Yes.
others' needs are
Mhm.
important, and no one can be like what are we putting before Him
Yes.
becomes an idol, right?
Mhm.
And our way of escape instead of spending that
Mhm.
time with
With
Him or
him.
looking to Him.
Yeah.
Like praying without ceasing is like, what does that? I always read that and like, what does that mean? What does it mean? But
Just
I feel
talking
like
to Jesus
yeah,
all day long.
all day long. I like
Yeah.
praying in tongues, like how to do
Yeah.
that.
Mhm.
I do. It's like a constant thing. It's like become part of your life. It's a culture now
Yeah.
Yeah.
with Jesus.
Yeah.
Walking with them in the cool of the day or
Yeah.
which is right now, like in the coolness. But it's like, that's what He desires for the relationship is
Yes.
the most important thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And our kids, think about that or those whoever we're in relationship with, are we showing up and being attentive
Mhm.
to what is saying, what is in the atmosphere, even the
Mhm.
spiritual,
Mhm.
Mhm.
atmosphere that's how I think we can go in and change it. Because if we have Him with us and we're attentive to Him, it brings it to wherever we go and what we're
Mhm.
doing.
Mhm.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's powerful. Like He's
Well, and
powerful.
I feel like He really honors small steps.
Oh,
Yes,
yeah.
yes, He does.
Like you do the smallest thing.
Mhm.
my husband and I, like, periodically we'll try to steal away for a little bit, and we, talk about goals and whatever, and
Mhm.
or just like, where are we, state of the union kind of things. We do this periodically, and you think, okay, what we always go back to is like, oh yeah, remember how we said we really needed to like work on our prayer life, and we like together we need to be, because we'll pray, separately, but like we need to intentionally pray for our family, because we're dealing with some struggles in our family, and we're like, wow, we're just really not seeing fruit, and you're like, oh yeah, we're still not spending that time, that intentional time, not like a prayer over your meal, not like a prayer before your kids go to bed, but like a Holy Spirit, you need to tell me the thing, I mean, I need to hear you guide me on what needs to happen.
And you know what?
For
And you know
my
what?
children,
Yeah.
for my marriage, for our business, all the things.
And sometimes it's just sitting and saying, I want to be with you, Lord. And in that moment, when you do that, everything begins to line up. And it's like going to him, not just for answers, going to him just to be with him.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mary
And that's like how
versus
we,
Martha.
Well,
how
that's
we
true,
want, how we want to be too, right?
Yeah,
We want to
yeah.
be known. He wants to be known in that.
Well, I definitely went to
But
him
then
for answers last night, but what I came away with was like, my soul needed that. Like
Yeah.
my spirit has that, right? But my soul needed that moment.
Right.
And
then, not to say that
yeah.
I think we need to cry out to him for everything that we are and ask and away and everything. But it's like when you do that in that moment and he comes, it's like life.
Yeah. And you really, I mean, it's profound. Like even just a few minutes of just being intentional, like I was in tears, because I've just felt like the Lord showed me so many things. Like he just starts weaving the things together. You're like, well, when did all this begin? I need to understand some things about what's going on with my child. And I feel like he just showed me like a reel of like clips of all these things that had happened. And I was like, oh, now I understand. Like he gave me a total revelation, a new revelation of some things that happened.
Yeah.
And they were small things. So it wasn't things that would have been an obvious event. It was just a piling up of.
And he's like, I've been waiting for you to come to me with this.
Yeah. And I feel like I've asked it, but I don't know. I mean, before, but it was different, it was different. And I was with my husband.
Wow.
And we were together when that happened.
Oh, wow. That's powerful.
And I was just like, see, this is what I need, like we need this as a family. Like, and you're like, oh, the Lord showed up. That's transformative. That feels so different. And to just slow down, it didn't take very much time, right? It's just the moment to come together and be intentional.
That's so good.
He's going to show up there.
So,
and it changes
I
everything.
think I got more clarity on, remember Wednesday night, so that day I had a vision about a staircase. And remember how I shared that? So as you were speaking about all that, it's like I felt like the Lord, because you had said something about taking the time. So the vision I had was these stair steps, and the Lord was showing how we climb up every stair step. But he said, instead of passing by the stair steps to step on one step, look to your right, and there was a door. On every step there was a door.
Oh wow!
And he said to open it, and then there's treasure in there. If you're willing to step into that, then you come back out, and then you go to the next step, and then so it's that pause and taking that moment instead of trying to rush through life, right? But at each stair step, at each season of our life, whatever we're in, there's a door for us to learn something new. And I think just when you were sharing, it's like, there it is. It's more clarity on that. And that just, wow.
He's always wanting to open it up.
It is. And I just, it's sad that we don't take that time, but it is an invitation. And to know that is powerful. So even us just saying that is like, if you're out there and you're listening to this, like everybody says, oh, start your day with him. But it kind of gets to where it feels trite to hear that. Doesn't it? I mean, I feel like it does. And you kind of gloss over it because you're like, well, I've heard that a million times. But it's like, no, really. No, really, it will change things. Or maybe if, I mean, like for me, sometimes I've got like a little kid who had a nightmare in my bed or whatever, and like so my day starts really differently. It isn't always peaceful, but sometimes I just lay there for a minute and I'm like, Lord, I'm just inviting you into this day. I pray that things are smooth this morning. I'm praying that you're just going to be with us. You're going to turn our hearts towards you and show me places where I can sit with you, like whatever that looks like. And sometimes that's all that I get out before the feet hit the ground, right?
Yeah. And then all of a sudden everything, but it's like, it does carry you through, right?
It does. It does. And it just puts you in a place where you're remembering to remember him.
So my husband started doing something that originally really irritated me. He would make me coffee every morning, which I love, but then he would bring it to me and he'd go, okay. And I'm like, okay, what? He has this way of greeting me. Hold up your cup for a second.
Oh, my
cup.
cup.
Yeah.
Oh, he's tinking.
Shalom on our dome and everywhere we roam, especially at home.
I love it.
I like it.
So we do that every day. And then after that, we pray for family and extended family. And then just as things come up, the prayer part has been getting really nice lately. And even this morning, it was like, this is where we're supposed to be in our relationship.
I love that.
Yeah. And
so what irritated you? Like, the cleaning or?
No.
My
husband does odd things. Like instead of writing back an email, he will write one word and they're all together. And then people have to figure out what in the world is he talking about? He's got a sense of humor that not everyone understands. And I'm his wife and I still don't understand it. A lot of times, his funniness would go over into hurtfulness. So it was hard for me to separate. But if I let go of it, then I can enjoy it.
And you guys have been having a lot of healing. Like there's been a lot of healing and connection recently.
Yeah,
like,
there has
been. I think just since you've been
Yep.
in the book and
Yep.
talking through some stuff you've said that there's been changes.
Still
right?
kisses me with a wet beard though, and I can't handle that.
Oh, Lord.
It's like at least wipe it off before.
But I
you
love
kiss
the
me.
shalom on your dome, and
Yeah,
everywhere
I think
we
that's
roam,
cool.
especially in our home. And I feel like I can see him saying that.
Yeah.
Yes. When you were saying, I could definitely hear him saying it. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. That was powerful. Yeah.
So I just have to accept him. That's his little kidness.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
it
he's
is
enjoying it. Yeah.
the childlike
It's joyful.
playfulness.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome.
So there were two things that popped out to me. One of them was the verses, come everyone who thirsts, come to the waters. He who has no money, come buy and eat.
Yeah.
And then it goes on and it says, delight yourself in rich food. Incline your ear, come to me. But it's that rich food thing. What does that mean in real relationship with God? And how can we do that? We can't eat unless we sit down and eat. I mean, you really can't. But why would he say rich food? We're always thinking healthy food. There's a meaning to it that I haven't quite.
I think if it's rich, don't we savor it longer? You know what I mean? If it's like a carrot stick, you're not like, I'm going to pause and just let this melt on my tongue, because it's not gonna. But chocolate, on the other hand, will. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like you can put that and it melts in your mouth, and it's
like me eating sea bass.
Experience, or whatever it is. You delight in it in a different way.
That
If
makes
it's
sense.
rich, I think.
Yeah, it's like when I eat sea bass or a good filet mignon. That's cooked just perfectly, and you just kind of like, I savor it. So that to me, I agree with. I think that's what it's talking about, is where delight yourself in that. So it's like,
it's something special and
Mhm.
elevated, right?
Mhm.
It's not something you always get to have.
Yeah.
Because the things we always have, unfortunately, we take for granted a lot.
and isn't that Jesus?
Yeah,
Mhm.
it is.
Mhm.
It
And
is.
so that's what I think is like when you come and you're delighting yourself in the richness of who he is. And
Mhm.
he's our life, like he's our bread. He's what we need to feast upon, right?
Mhm.
Is his
Yeah.
goodness and who he is and his character and all. And so when you take it all in, you get to savor and all the different. I just remember some foods. There's so many different flavors. Like,
Mhm.
what am I experiencing here? Is like powerful.
Mm.
So that's really good. So
Mhm.
that is such a good. I love that verse. You know that God's used it in my life many many times. Like, what are you thirsting for?
Oh yeah.
What are you
Yeah.
after?
Yeah.
Like, what is it you're wanting? What are you desiring? And let me say, because what we really, I think, if we go to the intentions, really what's deep, the longing that we have
It's
is really Him,
for his richness.
Mhm.
Yeah.
and we might not know that it's Him,
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
especially if you're not a believer.
Absolutely.
But yeah, and anyway, I want to reach out to the people listening too, that on Revived and Restored, you can reach out to us you can reach out to me at belovedunveiled@protonmail.com. I don't have my email set up for the Revived and Restored yet, but working on that. And if you want to check out the documentary and on Another Child, is on Amazon Prime, and it's called iTunes and Vudu, a whole bunch of platforms, but it's called Another Child. And we're actually going to be sharing that on Friday night at the church. I can't remember it used to be Hill Country, but I got to wrap it up. But anyway, you can reach out to us and email us and we'll tell you where it's at.